Oh, hello! Fancy meeting you here. It's so nice to see ya. Are you ready to survive the wastelands? Then you'll need to bring your shotgun, your axe, and of course, your knife. For your sharp wit, if you get my drift. Hey, whoa. Hold on there. Don't forget to pick up your Overwatch Contenders Junker Queen skin. Yeah, gearing up is as easy as connecting your Battle.net account to Twitch. And after that, watching the Overwatch Contenders Summer Series will contribute to your drop progression, letting you claim your own wasteland-ready Overwatch Contenders Junker Queen skin. Oh, that's right. It's time to rampage. Now, get out there and slay with the Overwatch Contenders Junker Queen skin. Okay, take care now. See you in chat.
Weeks and weeks of play have led to this moment.
Playoffs is back and we have some surprises in store for you.
Absolute chills.
Everybody's so low for our peak check. Cookie!
There's a reason that Cookie was touted as the best soldier in EMEA.
Saints play this beautifully. Bomb sticks mid-air!
You gotta have supreme confidence in yourself.
There is so much to fight for, and I am stoked to see how it's going to really pan out.
I love this when the fight is dire, when players recognize when they must make a play.
Oh my lord!
I am so damn excited.
This is absolutely spicy.
Only one team gets to come away from this alive. Now it's about their name. It's about their legacy. Know when to take that risk, when to bet it all.
The Overwatch Contenders Summer Series playoffs continue right now.
We are back, friends, to continue on the final stint of this day one. I am Rich right here alongside Kenobi. My friend, we've had some stellar games throughout today. Almost all 3-2s have gone the distance, and it's unreal that we get to go into this next one and hoping to see the same thing. Also, how was your trip, by the way?
My trip was great, but actually, I'm not Kenobi. I'm Hurix, actually, according to Door. So
Oh my goodness!
We gotta fix a little bit of the production here. But no, in all seriousness, had a great trip to France. Had a lot of fun there. Saw some great sights, ate some food. But now back in my homeland, gonna talk about some Overwatch like I love to do. And no better way for me to return than it just being playoffs, right? And also, I'm in here, it's playoffs, and we're in an Orisa meta, and I'm with you, so like, I could not have asked for a better returning home present than this right here, and it's going to be a great one. I mean, like you talked about, I think 3 out of the 4 series we've had today, all have been 5-map bangers, so this is, shaping up to be a pretty good one as well, because I think Dor and Hurix talked about this a little bit, is how, like, close everything is with like all of the teams in NA, even in EMEA. We saw a lot of those matchups were close, but like here going down into the losers bracket, it's just so many more stakes to play for all these teams because it's lose and you're out of the tournament.
Absolutely, and we can get your predictions in, 1 for Rift, 2 for Afterlife, and as you do get those predictions in, we can take a look at what the roster is going to be out the gate here. As we take a look at Rift first specifically, and again, you mentioned it, a lot of Orisa, and I'm extremely ecstatic to see it, but when we take a look at these players here, there can be a lot of variation into this. Curious as the portraits are here, if we see that some of those are going to stick, because we have still seen some variation outside of just the Orisa, specifically that has mainly taken that tank role.
And I think for Rift, it's interesting, like this is a team that going into this playoffs, I think deserves a lot of credit for kind of even getting here, right? Like this team was really low in the group stages starting off in the round robin, right? They were I think 10th or something or 11th, like floating towards the bottom. They won 4 off the trot on the back end of the round robin, able to sneak into that playoffs, I believe, at like the 8th spot, going 5 and 6. So they deserve a lot of credit getting here with this roster that they have. And I think that this is an interesting point where we are because Doran Hurix mentioned this a little bit. There's not really a meta just yet, right? I think everything is kind of, there's like, obviously with Alari coming in and like having her be a part of the meta a little bit more so. Orisa, something that you are very happy with, but also we've seen a little bit more prevalently here in NA. I think as we kind of go through these next couple of days and also going into next week, we'll see the meta start to settle down a little bit. And you can see that Afterlife roster that we just saw on broadcast coming off of a excruciating and potentially heartbreaking loss after that map 5 that we saw from them. And now the question for this team, who played like relatively good, I think, throughout the entirety of that series, it's like, how do you come back? Like, you're very warmed up at this point, and you're like, okay, we had the momentum. We like just played a series. We had a lot of energy in that one. We just barely managed to unfortunately lose it. Now we can go into the loser bracket, take that momentum with us, or is it like, are we just, was it too heartbreaking of a loss? That's kind of what I'm going to be looking out for with this Afterlife team. But I think that there's enough talent and enough of that experience in a tournament setting for this team where I wouldn't be worried too much about the latter end of that situation.
Yeah, I would agree. I think that they're going to feel still pretty confident going into this. They put on such a performance. They are definitely warmed up with how intense it was between the two of them. And the way that they played, again, through the entirety of this, understanding how to counterplay against the Orisa, bringing in the Sigma, giving a little bit of that surprise factor, along with just how they're mainly focusing on the positioning, that ebb and flow, especially with what the Orisa brings in when you get to throttle forward, that aggression, that momentum, and that overwhelming tempo that can completely, take you out of the equation. But we do have confirmation that we are going to be heading on to our first map, which is going to be Busan, to see which one of these sub maps will be first. I'm excited again that we do get to see even more of this Orisa, as I mentioned, because Afterlife brought it to the forefront of a lot of what they played, but we will get to see how this first map unfolds.
I think the thing about this current meta that we're in right now is a lot of it, this was kind of how it was a little bit like in the round robin, where it feels very map dependent depending on like what you're going to be going in terms of the composition. It feels so even more now, where it's like there are maps and like sub maps where it's like, okay, Ryan is viable, Winston still has some sort of play, Div is also viable too. Iliari kind of seems like the biggest thing as that's like been like kind of stalwart in NA so far. At least we've obviously only seen the singular series of it so far, but I think that as we go further in, a lot more teams are going to be utilizing that more so than not. And then Orisa is something that I think we're seeing a lot too. I think Jolik in the interview just called it the shooter comp, right? Just shoot. You just get your shooter guys and you shoot them, and whoever shoots better is able to win.
I mean, the quad hit scan is just also something that's so crazy to see, just everything that can be brought to the table, these different cross angles that you can find. Even as we're going to be heading onto our first map, which you will see in just a moment, we had a lot of Soldier 76 that is brought into this for that mobility, looking for those flanking angles, a crossfire. There's so much to this that they can play and bring to the table. Wouldn't be surprised to see something close in relation, unless they want to waver distance away from it. But again, Rift for 1, Afterlife number 2. Make sure you get those into the chat, as there is a few seconds remaining to get those verdicts in.
And this is something that we saw in our previous series on Busan that Afterlife was in, but something about this map in particular that's interesting that you're going to be looking out for both these compositions is kind of the split, right? And it's almost interesting how these compositions sometimes work, where it's like it feels like you have like 3 different lanes almost, where it's like there's the 2 side lanes of the map, and then you have the middle lane where it's like that's where the Orisa sits, and then like on the sides you have, on one side there's the Sojourn, and one side there's the usually the Soldier 76, and then kind of the other the DPS or the supports can float. So we'll see if that kind of continues to happen as we go into this map, but it actually looks like Rift are going to be as a 5-man moving around more so than anything, so just trying to rotate around effectively and take those angles away. But Afterlife is trying to play keep away and split as best as they can here.
Yeah, they're attempting to try and capitalize on the individuals that are separated away from the entire squad, and they make quick work of it too. Fix getting extremely low, Lethal capitalized onto, and Rift, deviating away from what we saw earlier, has netted them massive success, even though Afterlife does at least taste the initial percentage, and now can look to cycle back around, even looking for a flanking position here by Chime, but unfortunately, Zira gets the better end of it.
I mean, the thing is, though, Rhino's still alive, and Meter is just pumping heals into this Orisa, and also the Immortality Field really well placed, and that's going to actually give enough time to keep Fix alive, or Rhino alive for a little bit here, but Afterlife, with that Orisa going down, should be able to eventually forfeit this one, but actually, now it's traded back tank for tank. This is very smart.
They're able to just completely get back onto this point, again with the 76, even though they're going down quickly, they do have that heavy movement, so they can get that assistance back online quickly and keep this point.
You can see Afterlife still holding right now, and this is where we kind of see a lot of this poking style go on between both these teams, as we're going to be seeing again Rift moving as that 5-man, where Afterlife still just playing really split. And for Rift to be able to maneuver effectively, they have to start getting some of these picks early, right? They can get a couple of them, but they need to be able to get those picks and then immediately move over into that area, because if you play this poking game right now, we're at 60% and ticking up for Afterlife, and Lethal is going to be on this flank and is going to cause a lot of disruption here.
Sneaky play in the back. Helix Rocket gets a decent amount of chip damage onto X10, but unfortunately doesn't get the elimination. Sticking close, playing just across this entranceway, so there's enough healing onto Zero, but unfortunately, the shot lands. X10 moves into this, but it's still numbers advantage for Afterlife. They're holding these multi-pronged angles to try and just continue to harass and pressure Rift back, and they have no ability to move forward into this. They cannot allow themselves to get the advantage and are just now being ran over.
And it feels like really that Rift doesn't have an idea of like where to look in these scenarios, right? Where it's like Afterlife are set up perfectly around the map. It's almost like chess where they don't really have an area where Rift can attack directly, and now Rift are going to have to just use their ultimates in desperation to try and get back onto this point.
Tactical Visor active. Chime needs to make something work. Does at least get a pickup on to Fix, denying the ultimate from coming out to give the extra necessary power for Afterlife to take this convincingly with 100-0. Rift now has the dominant position. They just have to eliminate the Orisa. Rhino down. He is sent back to spawn, and this is the opportunity for Rift to generate some of their own.
Rift are able to hold and like start ticking up their percentage, which is going to be good for them. I mean, they only had to use that Tactical Visor, which is great for them in this scenario because they're going to be able to keep the rest of their ultimates that are going to be key for trying to win this fight, especially if Hanbei can farm towards this Ant Matrix. That's going to be something that they have way ahead of Afterlife in this scenario, but you're going to be looking out for these Illari ultimates and how they're going to be used. Fix, we've seen in the previous series, able to come up with huge clutch plays and that, so it is something to keep an eye out on for.
A couple of really great shots coming out from X10 and Chime, getting lethal extremely low. There's the ultimate, tossed into the back. Is there a follow-up onto the damage? The immortality field is there. There's not enough proc to damage. That 90 needing to be hit. It's coming up shy. Gamitra bobbing and weaving around this, so Fix can't get it until finally landing it with the counterplay. 40% and climbing, but unfortunately, it's not going to be much more as the rest of Afterlife completely engulf Rift with the ultimate economy that they have to toss into this. Now it's an insurance policy to have that amplification matrix, and lethal with this Tactical Visor can guarantee that no one can get in cleanly.
I don't even think they're going to need it at this point, and Afterlife are going to take a sub-map win, I should say. And it's interesting about how we kind of saw this matchup work, because it felt like a very stylistic difference, right? Even though the compositions were relatively similar, if not completely mirrored, the thing about it was like there was a 5-man movement from like Rift and like trying to kind of move it as like a brawly style, I guess, or a rushy style, and Afterlife were just like, okay, we can just put all of our members on the flanks, and even if you 5-man dive onto like one person, it's not going to matter too much because we still have a lot of healing potentially left over. Orisa's still going to be there, and we're just going to out macro you and out position you, and that's exactly what they did in that first fight, right? They lost 2 members extremely early, but they had control of the point. They still had a Baptiste and Orisa, 2 heroes comboed along together that are very difficult to kill, and let the other 2 members get back into that. So really good understanding from Afterlife to start this off as we go into our second submap here, Mecha Basin. We have a little bit more of an enclosed area, and I like this decision coming in from Zura on the Torbjorn. Torbjorn with that recent buff, extremely lethal in these enclosed areas.
Look at how forward Rift is playing. They're throttling onto the back line. Chime takes immediate action to follow through from Astronex, and now rotating downward. Afterlife have to give ground. They cannot sustain on this high ground position since they've lost a significant support play to keep them topped up. Rhino still threading the needle here near the stairway to draw back as this point finally goes in favor of Rift.
And I love what the decision making here from Rift compositionally is, bring in this Lucio. I think the Lucio here really favors the way they want to play, especially what we saw from Sanctuary now going on to this map. Giving that Lucio gives you the ability to try and be a little bit more aggressive on those rotations.
Contention again, nice pickup onto Zero, who again, that Torbjorn, how much value it can bring to the table, as you mentioned, is now going to be stifled and shut down. Rift playing such a strong, different type of game in the second map.
And this is something Curix kind of talked about a little bit, where the Lucio, while Lucio kind of isn't something you'd expect too much, the fact that you can just kind of decide whenever you want, just like snap on my fingers, I want to engage, right? I just want to speed boost into someone. I want to be able to go in there, and they can just do that on demand whenever they want. So they're not letting Afterlife be in these scenarios where they can just poke from afar. They get onto that backline. I mean, look at Zura, only 40% towards that ultimate because the aggression has just been so good from Rift, and they have an Ant Matrix to work with Lethal going down to X10. I mean, this is going to have to be like a full reset for Afterlife here, and they realistically, Rich, I mean, what do they have to work with? They have an Ant Matrix, they're going to have the Cascading Sunrise as well, but like, I mean, realistically, it's going to be very difficult for them to enter into this, especially against a Blizzard in this enclosed area. Like, a miracle will have to happen for Afterlife to try and win this next fight.
And this is one of those moments where I could just imagine the communication going on in the background. They have given a lot of time here to decide on which direction they want to take. The Blizzard now severs the team. It's strictly Rhino on the outskirts, up the catwalk. The amplification matrix is going to yield no value here for Afterlife, while it's still a great angle from Rift to just funnel damage through. Flanking angle, though there is an attempt by Fix to come in with the captive Sun. Gets two onto the backside, attempting to equalize here, but this is still Rift all day long on this second round.
Yeah, the Captain Sun able to get 2 from Fix there, but is that going to be enough for Afterlife to try and recontest back into this one? They do have Fix still in this fight, so the healers are there, but they got to get someone onto the point. They eventually do.
Overtime procced, Lethal with the overclock. Having to activate it, but does get both Icicles and Javelin across the way. From on high, X10 comes in to clean this up, making it a 1-for-1 round score.
Yeah, this was just a complete difference in, like, the playstyle, and just that added, like, spice of the Lucio just completely turned it around, I think, Rich. I mean, just the way that it was able to have those engages on demand, the way that they're playing more of this, like, 5-man style on this Rift team, bringing in that Lucio just made it so much easier for them to really benefit and just rushing down the enemy team. And I think Rift really making that adaptation just so quickly is really good understanding of the game for them, and more understanding of how they want to play their play style.
Well, and the thing is, too, is it was so much more reactive when it came to the first round, whereas there was a lot more proactivity with that Lucio. It gave them the upper hand out the gate, and looking to see if it can yield them the same result here as they keep that Lucio going into downtown.
And Afterlife haven't opted into the Lucio, so they're going to be sticking more towards still that pokey style, and we'll see if they're going to be able to match that aggression that's going to be coming into them, because Rhino already getting aggressed on the wall, doesn't manage to find anything, but actually splits Rhino off, and they're just going to go directly at Meter. Meter gets obliterated, and that's so much healing that's lost on Afterlife, and this aggression, again, working wonders for this Rift team.
Yeah, Rhino's probably saying, I'm safe, I didn't get walled off. All of a sudden, the damage is happening in the backside, completely repositioning themselves to take advantage and causing distress onto Afterlife. And now that Afterlife is having to play into Rift, it's going to make it much more challenging. Astronex going to take this full frontal position, has the Spear Spin utilized. Now with the defenses, needs to be careful, still has the Fortify available if things get a little bit dicey. And look at the reposition by X10, attempting to face against Fix, but they get 2 in the mix.
Fix went completely in the flank, and I mean, a 2-for-1 trade, that's perfectly fine if you're Afterlife in this scenario, but I mean, the rest of the fight is being lost by them. You have to get Rift back onto this point. They don't have a lot of healers to work with. Astronex is going to be here, a very tanky Orisa with those new buffs.
Yep. Astronex attempting to flee, utilizing the architecture to mitigate some of that crossfire from the left-hand side, but Afterlife able to persevere here, swapping this over, at least for a short duration, and now it's going to be this stutter step from Rhino to get back onto the point, diving forward again to just completely zone everyone from Rift away from the amplification matrix so now that they can capitalize, but Lethal might have overstayed their welcome on the high ground, and this is absolutely a bloodbath on this point.
I mean, this is so scrappy here, and Rift were trying to commit back into that, and even using an Ant Matrix in that fight, but it gets no value because Rhino is just there, walks past the Ant Matrix, and it gets absolutely nothing done. So Afterlife now flipping that point with how much Rift committed into trying to win that one back. They aren't managing to find anything. Dimitri's just going in like super aggressively there, and here's Rhino.
Caro Surge online, holding it for the moment, waiting to find an optimal opportunity as they are clustered together. Since there is no ability to synergize it with Fix, it will be used independently. But they give space now. Blizzard is active. They want to re-enter in on this. They isolate Rhino onto the outskirts, but the Immortality field is there. It buys enough time so that they can get out of that cleanly to re-engage this. Lethal and Rhino tag team to dominate against 2, and they still continue to take this.
And I mean, now with 70% by the time we get back into these fights, potentially maybe 75, it's looking at like last fight territory. And Afterlife have 2 very key ultimates that are super good at controlling space, right? Molten Core and the Terror Surge. I mean, that combo alone, it's going to be nightmarish for Rift to try and make it through here. But luckily, they have a sound barrier to work with.
Holding that doorway for now on the balcony. Rhino underneath, patiently waiting. Javelins being lobbed at least onto the high ground to see if they can get any type of value, even though they're stabbed in the back for the brief time. Astronex is being kept into the theater for now, while the fight continues on the point. Chime with the Genji. Eliminating a support makes this a lot more challenging, where it's only Meter able to have to hold this team and keep them going. The Immortality Field buys some time, but now they're locked into a corner. A multi-prong attack as Chime takes a flanking position with a Taro Surge into 4, and that will shut down the attempt for Afterlife to turn it back.
And I really love that decision-making from Rift, where they went to the point to try and proc that overtime. They actually send Yamitra and Chime, and they just say, screw it, there's no need to get like a 5-man sound barrier here. We're just going to blanket ourselves and just make sure we can secure a kill. They take down Fix, and then they win the fight off the back of that. So really, I think good instant play coming out from them, but Afterlife can come back into this one with a couple of key ultimates of their own. Chime trying to duel and take that high ground. Without the deflect, needs to be a little bit careful to not just get hit by either a Sojourn or by Fix on the Iliari.
Oh, there's no way they're going to have to push up on that with the Amplification Matrix. Rhino looking to play a little bit closer to not step backwards into it. The ultimate active. Can Fix get the follow? Taro Surge gets 1. Molten Core even held on to this, but then committed. There are so many ultimates to try and swap this back over, as it's 72% and still continuing to climb from Rift. They lose into the Dragon Blade, unfortunately, so that cannot be brought any value on top of this. So with a rotation for Afterlife, they're in a final fight territory.
I mean, X10 is coming back in with that overclock. This is possible if X10 can find some picks, but they're just not coming in. So far, finally, it takes down Fix. That's the healing lost, but on the back end, it's traded for Hanbei, which is a much more important healer, because now it's just Yamitra, the lone Lucio on this point, trying to do the healing.
And Zera re-entering, sticking close to the inner wall, 99 into the overtime. Defensively, protecting himself against Chime, diving in, gets the melee. Astronex can't survive it. It's the Swede once again taking the advantage, but there's a railgun shot at least for 1. Swapped over. Afterlife now going to dominate and isolate the remaining few, as it was a desperate swap here for Rift, but can't quite contest.
Afterlife going to take the win here, starting things off on Busan, and I think they're kind of, in that last fight, I think it's a perfect kind of idea of how it's like the push and pull of like having the Lucio versus not having the Lucio, right? Because there, I mean, Fix dies super early, right? But you still have the Baptiste, so you still have a little bit of healing. With the Lucio-Baptiste combo, if you lose the Baptiste, it's nigh impossible to win those. You don't have any healing, right? Lucio is like, oh, you know, haha, Lucio has a healing button. Like, you can maybe amp it up on heals, and that's like possible, but like Bap is your main healer in that comp. So losing the Bap is just absolutely almost a death sentence for your team, where it's like if it's Bap and Iliari and you lose one of them, the other one has a lot of that healing output. Not to say that I think Rift made a mistake by playing the Lucio, because I think for a lot of the times it worked. Like, it worked to their playstyle, it helped them a lot, especially back on mecha base, but this was a much closer, I think, once we saw Rift play more towards their styles, more so than like trying to match into like the Iliari Bap composition, which potentially might not have worked. And they've definitely, I think, off the rip decided like, hey, it's not going to work for us. Let's not mirror just for the sake of mirroring, because we want to play the flashy new hero, right? Let's play what our strengths are. And it worked extremely well for them.
And again, it's those subtle, important details that allow it to take the advantage. And I 100% agree with you, is like there's still something that can be brought by having that secondary support, because Lucio really is at this point now more so, even with the healing, looking for utility to try and potentially get somebody out. That increased movement is so vital for them to be able to survive through that, to buy enough time for that other support to get back online. So again, major recognition coming out from their opponent. Afterlife able to exploit that weakness by getting that. And now as we move into this next map, that'll also give us an understanding of whether or not this Lucio play or these types of changes to not go head to head with a similar matchup or the mirror matchup, and what that's going to yield.
And I think kind of it'll depend on the map as well, because that also, especially with like what we have in terms of those hybrid maps that we have, I believe that is the next sub or the next map type we're going to be going to here. It will depend, like, do we see Numbani, which is a map that does have a lot of that high ground potential, and Winston got played a lot there. I think we saw Iron play Sigma. I think that might have been specifically an Iron thing, so that might be possible. But it actually looks like we do have our map. It is going to be Eichenwald, which is going to be interesting to me, because this is a map where I think you could still play the Orisa. Spam definitely like has a lot of value here, especially on first, right? You just can sit in that choke, spam through it, and it's a lot, it's very much decided on who's going to get the better end of a lot of those duels with the spam. But what type of spam are we going to be seeing? Are we still going to be seeing the Iliari coming out, being able to be played especially with those long sight lines. There's not really a ton of fall off damage on her, so I think that this is a possibility to still see more of these pokey style of matchups. What I'm going to be interested though for Rift is like, do they keep playing Lucio? Because on control, Lucio I think has a lot of value here, unless it's on third, and I'm being generous with that. I don't know if the Lucio is kind of going to be the thing that's really going to be able to match up against the double pokey style with these long sightlines that you have on Eichenwald.
Yeah, they'll have to go head-to-head on that one, and I think it's going to be really, really necessary because there's going to be too much of a risk, especially when you're down going on to Busan. You got to see a little bit of what the Lucio brought to the table, but I'm very certain that they are well aware of what they have to utilize going into this onto Eichenwald and being able to take that matchup. And ultimately, it's going to be nice to see this variation again of these map selections and what's going to play to their strengths. And Afterlife, they've been, again, already what we saw earlier in the previous game, are still bringing those strengths to this one. They have just had some really great understanding of the tempo, even if their opponent, like Rift, is throttling forward, they're aggressing, they're blitzing at them. There is still this understanding of that ebb and flow, drawing back, allowing themselves to reposition and find a better angle. Couple of catch-off moments, so like you mentioned with that Maywall, where Rhino's just kind of sitting there like, no guys, I'm fine, but the entire team then rotates around. It's like, okay, you're fine, we're not fine.
Yeah, we need our Orisa to stand in front of us. We need some help here, but that's also something that we saw previously in the series, or in our last series as well, where we do have sometimes the split where the Orisa is just, with the buff she got, is so strong that you can just kind of walk into 4 of the backliners and just be like, yeah, what are you gonna do? I'm spinning my javelin in front of me. Yeah, that's what it is.
Yeah, it's a javelin. Yes.
I'm spinning my javelin. You need to get your prop back, by the way.
I know. I really need to make it. I had a javelin. I'm gonna have to make it again. I don't know where it went.
By the way, what's it like with you playing, like with seeing an Orisa meta? Because I know that this is something I feel like you've been waiting for your entire life as an Overwatch.
I really have. I have been waiting for this moment to cycle again, where you did get to see a little bit of Orisa a long time ago, but as we get to talk about it, we'll have a little bit of an adjustment here coming out from Afterlife, so there is going to be a change up. But yes, my love for Orisa continues to forever burn.
And I mean, this is a perfect time for it to burn during these playoffs with the changes that we're having. I think that, like, also, as we do have a sub, Haven is going to be brought in here for Zura. I think this is an I think Haven coming in does tell me that, like, yeah, this is going to be more of that, like, pokey style, right? I think we're going to be bringing Haven. Sojourn is something that Haven is extremely good at. Lethal, obviously, still in here to play more of those long-range hit scans. Lethal, I feel, is like a chameleon, kind of. Like, he can play everything, but his long-range hit scans and mid-range hit scans are absolutely insane. So I think this makes sense in terms of the sub that we're going to be seeing and the map that we're going to be going to. So I think for Afterlife, already in the driver's seat, just kind of want to stamp it down here, make it a 2-0, and then go into Escort.
Well, and Haven specifically, we got to see some really clutch moments when it came to that final series just moments ago, where it was like on the brink of being able to make game-turning moments.
This close on
like,
I think on Lijiang. Like, it was that
gardens.
close.
It was gardens at the end of it. You have the quad kill, and you just don't come up managing to get the support play. So there's a lot of potential here in being able to see Haven continue to perform. Even in chat, I remember Twitch, people like, Haven, let's go! Haven, let's go! Yeah, that's why. Haven's going to come in and going to start laying waste. So hopefully it's enough for them to be able to continue to dominate as they have already.
And I think on the other side, again, when we talk about Rift a little bit here, it's interesting to me, like, what the support line is going to look up, because again, we did see more of that Lucio, and it feels like they wanted to play a little bit more of that 5-man style. How is that going to be adapted to on a map like Eichenwald? Are they going to continue to do it? Because it's not like it can't be played, right? Lucio could still be played. You can, if you get like past first and like start going to second, you can use Lucio to rotate around castle very effectively, take that high ground away. You can move faster than the enemy team can potentially react to you. It's just about getting those kills quickly and then moving on to the next one, because we know that, like, if you're going to be playing more of a pokey style for Afterlife, you're going to be a little bit more split up, and that's going to be very effective, especially in these long range maps like this.
And as we enter onto this defensively, Afterlife will take the first position to a comp that we are not so surprised of. Haven more so onto the Torbjorn, which I will be interested to see the viability of
that. Is very good right now,
dude. It's really good, but I mean, Haven, that's like the part where I'm just like, all right, okay, I'm gonna see how Haven puts this to good work.
Listen, I mean, if you think about it, right? If you think about it, Sojourn is a shoot hero, okay? Torbjorn is also a shoot hero. And Haven's a pretty good shooter, so I think it can still work. I think it's still there, and you have a turret that shoots for you as well.
We see Haven trading lasers for rivets. Like, is that what we're doing here?
we need Door to make a graph on that. the shooting viability of heroes in Overwatch.
Okay, absolutely. And I'm loving to see how that's going to pan out, because I did appreciate the graph work earlier, especially with the lovely pointing device as well. That's allowing him to give some information. But as we do push on to this initial position, you're going to see Rhino going head-to-head with Astronex, who is now having to fall back a little bit. Javelin as well, just pushing them away from the engagement, giving some space for the rest of Afterlife to maneuver around. Haven playing close to that central pillar, but Astronex is able to find the damage as you do see Haven rotate back with the rest of the squad. 3 minutes and 20 seconds, and you already see Rift taking down 2. They have the numbers advantage. They're isolating the remaining few, and will be able to take this quite convincingly.
Ymitra is an absolute madman. I mean, Ymitra has been all over the place, right? It felt like every time we're on someone else's POV, Ymitra is right there helping them out. And I think that this great thing about this Lucio is that you can move around the map so effectively. And the thing about the Afterlife support line is there's not really the same amount of mobility, right? You can't just be somewhere instantly like a Lucio potentially can be. So I think that Rift, really good understanding of that first fight. They were able to, you know, rotate around quickly and not let Afterlife set up that poke, and now they have a huge time bank moving through second here. Nice Ant Matrix, and Haven is going to go down again, not really having the start that they would have wanted.
Rhino, though, at least getting one. The surge up top, can it yield more value? It doesn't quite find much more, but it's going to be Lethal who assists onto Astronex, so it's still defensively Afterlife will be able to capitalize onto this while just really being a harassment tool at this point, with Chime on the high ground, able to get out, dropping below, but there is still Rhino, making sure that there is contention on this point.
And that's going to be, I mean, X10 trains back in for Haven. Chime is down, though, so that means that there's no Blizzard at the current moment, and this is where it's going to become very difficult for Rift to start moving forward, right? And you're actually going to be I mean, the thing about it is that, like, there's so many poking opportunities right now, and Rift really have to rotate cooldowns effectively just to try and get a sniff of some of these DPS and supports that are going to be pumping them down with damage through this chokehold.
I'm also curious how quickly we'll see Fix look to use this Captive Sun as they cluster together. Moving forward, the opportunity has arisen. Can they follow up onto the Sunstruck? Gets 2 specifically, and now goes for the 3rd, but Haven strips it away, and that's going to be a nice defensive hold here for only 1 ult.
Yeah, I mean, you can see for Rift is, like, as they're trying to move and rotate through these areas, they're having to use walls, like, defensively. That's, like, where we're at right now. And look at how aggressive Afterlife are being right here. They don't want to let Rift get even an inch for free. They want to try and just push them as much as they can because they know they have this advantage to be able to poke down. And Lethal's able to take down Hanbei, so that means there is 0 healing. This has to be a complete retreat for Rift, and Afterlife is schmoovin' and groovin' right now.
Yeah, they're really also utilizing this wall where you can get potentially a javelin to knock them off the edge, get a really nice pin as they maneuver out of that section where you can either go through the main doorway or the 2 that split to the left and right. So there's just so much that they can utilize at this high ground even.
Afterlife still holding this aggressive area here. I mean, they have a lot of good ultimates to be able to hold as well, especially with Lethal coming in on this overclock on the flank right here. They actually know that they know Lethal's there?
I'm not sure they do. The swing comes in, though, from Rift as they attempt to counteract and deny Rhino positioning. No one is really able to do too much here. The sound barrier is even committed to this so that Rift has enough fortification to withstand that incoming damage from up top from Lethal, so they've managed to make some space and can get some progress.
And Rift, I mean, only had to use the sound barrier. There is an overclock that was used from X10 earlier, but that's all they had to use to be able to get out of that one. And Afterlife even commits an Ant Matrix to this really, really deep by the spawn. That felt like maybe Meter a little bit too over-aggressive with that one, because now Hanbei can just use theirs aggressively here, and actually here comes a Blizzard.
Ooh, nice Cryo Freeze to survive through the damage. Coming back out of it as Fix is on the outskirts, not within the Blizzard, but still gets taken down by the Chilling Queen, as it is going to be a very big pickup here. They're isolating him back. Rift is still getting decent distance with this.
There have been a couple of, like those last 2 ultimates from Haven and I mean, Haven's gonna swap, okay, so it doesn't matter too much, but like there have been a couple of ultimates that have been a little bit spooky in terms of when they've been used. With Haven switching over, it doesn't matter too much, but this is a nice wall. And that's, it's just so well played. Lethal had nowhere to go. I bet was expecting they could just get out of there with that shift, but nope, not able to do so. Perfectly placed wall, and now Afterlife have to desperately get out here, and it's going to be a 4v5.
Nice wall again, separating Rhino. There's an attempt to rotate back, but you still have X10 up top pummeling with rapid-fire shots. The Surge comes through near the point, gets rid of the Immortality Field, and Hanbei goes down, but the counter Surge is active, guaranteeing that you lose once again this significant healer, but there's still Fix potentially going to follow up onto the Sunburst, but there's not enough to follow. Actually, it's going to be a takeout.
Lethal?
Maybe Lethal? Yeah, Lethal's gonna come in on top here for Afterlife as they completely turn this around.
Lethal, that's insane that Lethal was able to clutch that one out. I mean, Fix did a lot too, especially with that pylon that he threw. In those chaotic fights, healing pylon is so strong, right? Because you just basically, like, it's another health bar you have to track, but it's already in these chaotic fights and you might just lose track of it. And it actually was what kept Lethal alive with the healing from the beam from Fix as well. So really well played from Afterlife to be able to clutch that one out. And now with where the card is rich and with 40 seconds left, this is going to be last fight, and Lethal on the flank looking for an overclock. Do they know? They have no idea.
Can instantly come out of nowhere. Still playing close. Yamitra in the sights down below. Goes for two. All three shots landing. And now Yamitra is a sitting duck down the stairway. 22 seconds. They are going to vanish for Rift and will not be able to have a solid re-engagement here, I feel.
I mean, are they even going to be able to touch the card? I mean, they have to make desperate swaps. Astronex is going to have to go over to the Doom Fist. Yamitra's still alive and has the Sound Barrier, so they can blanket themselves to get back into this point and touch for overtime, potentially.
Spare Spin denies him to move up the wall, but now you're going to have Astronex on the Doom Fist, who's once again all alone, getting as much healing as possible from the high ground. The Immortality Field instantly reduced to rubble, so Astronex has no more support. He is going to be deleted on the front line, and you even have this attempt swinging over top. And Fix is just gonna say, all right, friends, I'm just gonna toss it in. We're good. We're not letting you breach the doors.
And I mean, again, this is kind of what I was talking about going into this map, where I was like a little bit worried on second, like how this composition would work. From Rift with like operating with that Lucio instead of something like this double flanker look, and we saw a little bit how difficult it was for them to get through this castle. Once Afterlife had that high ground to them, they really never let it go, right? That was just really well played from them. They had the one moment here where it was like a bit sketchy, but with a nice clutch from Lethal, Afterlife was able to hold at the very death.
I'm just so happy. Like, I actually get to cast Orisa. I'm just so happy. Like, I know this is totally off subject, but I'm so happy.
All those quick play games, this is what it's been for.
It's all been for this moment. Oh, goodness. But realistically, again, some of those significant plays trying to divide and conquer with, you know, the Mei play was viable. It gave an opportunity to shut down Afterlife, but once they were able to break those doorways, keep distance from it, not find themselves in those really unfortunate positions to be blocked off, they were able to really take advantage regardless of whatever the Mei was bringing to the table.
I also like the idea from like Afterlife where it seems like they have a little bit of like confidence, and the thing about it is like Lethal's flank there. You have to like have supreme confidence in yourself, right? That you're gonna flank essentially 1v2 like that against a Lucio and a Sojourn who a Sojourn who has their own overclock and win that one. We know Lethal to be very confident in his own right and kind of where Lethal has made his name in North American Contenders, as we see Afterlife rocking the farm. Okay, so we're just going with like all the classic hits, right? We have the Pharmacy, we've got a Narissa. Like, this is not something. Am I at EMEA? Like, what's happening? This isn't NA anymore.
And Haven also on the Hanzo, gonna get that insight and a lot of damage with those arrows. As you can see, it's a little bit of hesitant approach just yet by Rhino, slowly but surely, methodical.
I love this comp.
That is the approach.
Against the Torbjorn too. Like, Torbjorn hates Pharahs because you can sit from forever ago and like in another part of the map and just kill turrets, and you can see where like Chimus had to put his turret. It's in this enclosed area, so it's not really getting a ton of value on the crossfire. And look at where Lethal is, but actually X10 gets a nice pick off, and Lethal might not be in a resable position here with Haven going down. That's all the DPS lost, and Afterlife have to retreat here.
There's no way you want to even go for the res even at that point. And again, even though the turret is underneath and doesn't get anything, the second that they move into the sightline, it's going to be surprise damage. And now, since they've taken this initial fight, they have an ultimate value. And even Haven commits themselves to say, I'm not going to bring this to the field, nor am I going to do the same with Lethal. And they go back to what they've been playing.
Yeah, we've gotten out of EMEA, and now we're back to the classical NA here. But something to keep an eye out on is both of these Iliaris here. Fix a little bit closer towards that captive sun, so Dimitra not really there just yet, and that is an ultimate that we know can just turn fights instantly on its head.
Javelin knocking back Rhino consistently, keeping their distance so they can't just blitz forward as they've done before. Cooldowns continuing to be rotated here. Amplification Matrix going to slaughter Rhino, but does force the Fortify out immediately and brings themselves into the small room where they can get topped up. But oh my goodness, Fix comes in with a drive on the right-hand side. Nobody's ready for it. That Sunstruck feels real good.
It's got to be one of the most satisfying things when you just get like multiple kills with that, with the back end of the explosions of the Captive Sun. It's got to feel fantastic, and it was even able to take out Dimitra, I think, during Dimitra's own Captive Sun. Let's see, actually. Oh my god, that was disgusting.
See,
absolutely
and again,
disgusting.
That's what's so nice about the staggered and like timing on the damage, because it's moments like those where you can remove the immortality field. You can completely deny it from giving that coverage, and then it guarantees the 2 picks after. Fix, though, getting a little overzealous there and finding themselves sent
I've never
back
seen
spawn,
a more dead Iliari than that. That was the most dead I've ever seen.
That's like digging so deep you're in the center of the Earth's core, and just that's where I'm gonna lay your corpse. That's where it's going.
You've gone all the way to Australia. You've gone through the entirety of the Earth.
All the way to where our producers are. As we've got now Lethal gonna try and elude into that, as they actually do get distance from it, but the overclock from X10 capitalizes on to Fix for the moment. This is being extremely scrappy once again in the doorway. Lethal can't really gain any value with this ultimate, and now plays very far forward and dashes to their demise.
And now kind of we're going to be in a similar situation with where Rift were on the defensive end, where they're going to be, or Afterlife is going to be like having a difficult time moving forward. They don't have a Lucio, so like they have a little bit more of that long-range poke potential to just try and break out fights with that poking, but it is still like a lot of work to get through these areas, especially if you're just in these poke battles. It takes a lot of time to be able to get forward.
Head-to-head with a spear spin up front. Initial cooldowns out. Fortify as well, no longer accessible from Astro next. Nice pickup, though, onto X10 from Haven. Finds the damage. The shooty continues as Chime does the return. Molten Core active. Lava does burn, and it is all over the floor as Chime recedes and holds onto theirs, allowing the space to be given. Astronex extremely low. The immortality is actually overshot, and you see them get topped up enough. Dimitra's coming in with the aggression. Even though they don't do it with the ultimate in and of itself, the rest of Rift capitalize onto Afterlife.
I mean, Chime got javelined into the team and was like, all right, cool, I'm just going to start right-clicking people, and it worked completely fine for them. And Afterlife, I mean, they were looking so good on the defensive end at the back end of their defenses that now, only with 2 minutes left, I mean, this is a winnable scenario for Rift here to be able to take this one, especially with Ant Matrix so close for Hanbei here. Even if it doesn't manage to get kills, it's going to take a lot of time off the clock, which is something Afterlife doesn't have a ton of here.
And look at this angle. Lethal trying to take the high ground up top. He's going to maneuver through the doorway, getting assistance by Fix. Oh, but the Disruptor slows them, so they get the shot onto Fix and once again eliminate the support play. Rhino has not enough healing from Meter, and that's going to force them back again.
And that's kind of the thing that Sojourn, I think, does so well in this composition, and why she's being played, is that you have burst damage, right? Because sustained damage is really hard to work with in these compositions because there's so much healing available with the Baptiste and with the Iliari, that having the ability to just get that rail shot in and get an insta-kill is something that's very valuable in Rift. Only using that Amplification Matrix keep a lot of their key ultimates, but Afterlife have some of theirs as well. Captive Sun from Fix. It's gotten a lot of big value before. Can it do the same here, as Chime is already dead?
Tactical Visor from Lethal. Good look to commit into this. Astronex getting very low. There is the burst damage. Haven gets the headshot as well onto this cleanup crew coming in from Lethal. And now with 45 seconds, they just have to round this corner and push it across the bridgeway.
Yeah, this is last fight territory right here. On the bridge is going to be a scary proposition for this fight, especially with Arissa's in the lineup and with Iliari's. I mean, you've got to remember that she has that ability to dash and push people away.
Yeah.
It pushes them sneakily far away, so it is something to be worried about as we get to the last fight here. Afterlife about to have a 5-pack of ultimates in their bank, though.
Head-to-head with the Orissas, playing the castle doorway. Rhino, patient as Astronex leads forward. Doesn't want to go too far, though. There's the pull. Is there the follow-up? The combination attempting to go for the captive son, but a counter pulls in Fix and Rhino and takes the advantage. Rift has denied the combo. The timing wasn't true, and they actually deny the take here from Afterlife, with Rift making it an even 1-1 score.
And Fix somehow got pulled into that Terror Surge from Astronex. That is something that I think completely turned that fight around, because if that Captive Sun goes off, I think that fight looks completely different, but a really well-played Terror Surge. I mean, waited for the perfect moment, too. Astronex, I was getting a little bit worried. I was like, you got to get out. You got to be able to contest right here, but goes in at the perfect moment, is able to find Fix somehow, some way, and Rift are able to tie it up here on Eichenwalde, which was interesting. Again, I talked about them bringing the Lucio. It worked, a couple of times on their offense, but on the defensive end, putting Dimitra onto this Iliari actually seemed to work pretty good for them as well.
Yeah, it really, really did. And major hats off to them being able to take that. And this is where we actually get to see it. Just clipped him around the side. It was
I'm so mad. If I'm Fix, I'm Omega tilted. I'm so mad if that's happened. If that happens to me in a ranked, I might not queue up again. I might not queue up for another one. I might have to quit. That might be a bedtime.
Well, and that's kind of the play style, though, that we talk about Illari specifically, because when it comes to this type of methodology, you're looking to peek those corners and go for those shots. Like, you tossed out the Captive Sun, you already were able to get that into the mix so that the Terra Surge can land, but being pulled into that as well just because you overstayed your welcome, or maybe the pixel around the brick.
Yeah, the tiniest pixel. The tiniest pixel on the replay viewer, I'm just like, oh man.
Oh, look at that! Your toe is peeking out? Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry about that, friendo. I'm gonna take all of you.
Your shoes are just half a size above what they're supposed to be. Sorry, unfortunately. You didn't clip your toenails? Oh, sorry. You got hit by that. But I think really well played from Rift to come back into this map in particular on Eichenwalde. Obviously a map that they picked, but playing the Lucio style, then also showing me that they can play, the mirror with the Iliari and the Baptiste. I think it actually shows to me that they can match up on the mono-y-mono. So that gives them another look, which is going to be good, because having that variability is something that I think, especially with where we are in the meta now, is going to be incredibly valuable if they can continue throughout this bracket. They still have to continue this matchup against Afterlife.
Yeah, it's an incredible value to have, especially when you're in the lower bracket and fighting for your life. But we're going to head to that short break, so don't go anywhere, friends, because we'll be getting this third map underway in just a moment.
Do you like solving problems? Problems like how to stop that tracer from deleting your backline? I know just what you're thinking. You'll bring a turret. But y'all can't solve all your problems by simply bringing an extra friend to the battlefield. For that, you need the Contenders Torbjorn skin. Solve your problems by connecting your Battle.net account to Twitch. After that, watching Overwatch Contenders Summer Series will contribute to your drops progress, letting you claim your Overwatch Contenders Torbjorn skin. Even your turret gets an upgrade. Warning, the Overwatch Contenders Torbjorn skin does not come with extra or upgraded turrets. Build instructions will not be provided. By picking Torbjorn, you waive a claim towards any destroyed turrets. No refunds, no exchanges, and no take-backsies.
We're back, friends. It's 1-1 on the map score, and I feel like we're going to be here all night, Kenobi. We're going to be seeing the sunrise, maybe.
Oh, don't say that. It's 11 p.m. here, bro.
I know, right?
I know we got some more to go through, but like I don't know if seeing the sun. Let's calm down a bit.
I mean, we're going to watch Point Gibraltar, so maybe we'll see extra innings on innings.
We'll see sun in game, but I don't know if we'll see sun outside of my window right now. But as we go, like you mentioned, into Watch Point Gibraltar, our escort map here, I think that what I'm going to be looking out for on this map is going to be the double sniper look and like the long range hit scan. Because the fact that this is a map where we do see a lot of those, like the snipers, for instance, come into play, more so than anything else. The other thing is, like, do we still see Orisa? Because this is a map where it's, like, high ground is very important. We did see on, like, other maps Orisa still got played, but, you know, there is the potential to see things like the, you know, Winston, like the D.Va, I think. With Iron coming back in, tells me D.Va, also tells me Sigma.
Same thing as well with the adjustment, too, for, you know, bringing in Zura as well. I believe we actually do have the 2 substitutes specifically that we're going to be bringing in, so we can take a look at that as well. But yeah, I highly agree with you that being able to see that type of, you know, Orisa play again is going to be a little bit more challenging in comparison. I don't think it's as viable, but we do know that with Zero coming back in, that's going to be something that partners very well in this. We have seen it already. Watch Point Gibraltar again specifically, so they've got a moment to come back in once again, be able to take the advantage here and try and fight off against Wisp, who's been able to keep an even toe, at least on that last one, but still quite a blow for blow thus far.
And I mean, I think the thing about this map in particular is the styles might be like completely different, right? Because I think that like this is a map where it's like, you know, bring in Iron tells me that we're not going to be seeing Orisa, and these last 2 maps have been like pretty much exclusively the Orisa compositions, whether it is Rift's kind of style of playing a little bit more of that 5-man rushy style, or it's going to be the other side where it's Afterlife playing that pokey style that kind of like seems like the standard, quote unquote, more so than anything else.
Quote unquote, indeed.
Because I mean, calling anything standard feels like weird because there's not like anything, right? It's
right.
Kind of like we're just like we're in it, right? We're just the dust hasn't settled yet on this meta.
Oh, no, I have a feeling that the dust isn't going to settle for a little while, at least for the rest of this evening, guaranteed. As we do get to see now on the defensive side, we will see Iron on the Sigma, and then Zura's going to come onto this Tracer, which again, the Tracer, there has been some discussion of how, you know, the swap between Tracer, potentially Sombra still bringing into the mix, even though it's not nearly as relevant, but it still gets a lot of that backline harass and just forcefulness on the support line, as I'm looking to see exactly what the lock-in is going to be here for Rift out the gate.
And you still have burst potential with your Pulse Bomb. That's kind of like the biggest thing with Tracer right here. It is very difficult, though, to like maneuver Tracers in comps like this, especially if there is going to be something like the Iliari and stuff like that, because of the fact that it's very hard to duel the backliners here. It is, you know, Ana is going to be something that you can realistically duel in the backline, but Zero has to really find some creative ways to potentially either just melt down the tank or find a way into that backline and be able to put down some pressure down.
And Chime with this Genji play, continuing to maintain that upper position to deny a lot of the incoming fire, while the payload is freely to move underneath. You're just going to have Astronex stick close with it. Chime crossing over when needed on this high ground. Coupling together, looking for a flanking angle, takes quite a bit of pressure here, though. Nice sustainability from both supports from Afterlife, able to completely weather the storm that comes in. 60 seconds off the clock, and even though the payload's pushed up that far, Afterlife has been doing a really great job at sustaining through it.
And one of the things that the Tracer can do as well is be able to hold the cart against the D.Va, which is exactly what Zura did, where Rift was pushing it under the car wash, trying to basically cheat their way through, but Zura did a great job of just holding that cart's positioning. And now you can actually see Astronex switching over to the Winston just to offer a little bit more of that dive potential onto the high ground alongside something like the Genji. So I think that this makes a lot more sense, especially against Iron, because you really can just push yourself through all of the defensives that Iron has with the Tesla cannon, and Iron can't really do anything about it.
Yeah, just continue to get full value with the damage through the wall, especially if Meter's been playing as close as they have, to start generating towards that ultimate as quickly as possible. The nano boost comes in, already generating over 50% since they made this swap. The accretion goes for the stun into the corner, guarantees that Chime cannot survive. 1-for-1 trade, but with the loss of the support, that's going to make Afterlife play a little bit more hesitantly here, as they've already been playing forward.
Yeah, and with the respawns are so much closer for Rift as well, but Afterlife are doing a good job of holding as best as they can here. Iron trying to hold this Winston at bay as much as he can. Gravitic Flux comes out, pulls him up.
Is there follow-up on it, though? Nice accretion.
Oh!
And there's the disruptor damage that chips away at the health of Chime. And Iron has truly been a force of nature in this doorway with the assist of the back line.
They just can't kill Iron. I mean, they're trying as best as they can, but Iron just isn't dying with the amount of healing that's coming in from Meter and from Fix, and just holding all of this positioning, not letting Rift get onto that high ground. And you can see Rift here with a 5-pack all ultimates, only a minute left in their time bank. They're going to have to find a way to break through. They're going to have 5 ultimates to work with, but is that going to be enough to be able to get that first checkpoint?
I mean, that's a tall task with 60 seconds. Afterlife has put on quite a spectacular showing, and Iron has been basically forged in the fires of Mordor at this point, with now this reposition up top. Chime, look for potentially a blade. This reposition onto a flanking angle. Oh no! The Primal Rage didn't get active in time. They just completely blew up Astronex.
I mean, they saw that was really well played from Afterlife. They saw that Hanbei was kind of just left to their own devices in that backline, and if you're Sigma and you're Iron there, you're like, sick, I can just walk at you for free. There's no peel for you in this scenario, and you get absolutely obliterated. Now, Rift, last chance saloon for them. Luckily, they have Nano Blade, which is almost the great equalizer, but lethal coming in with this overclock. It's all it takes is one overloaded headshot to make this fight completely different.
And you can see holding down below, getting prepped and ready for the dive onto this payload to keep it into the overtime. The pulse bomb gets one though already. Chime with the blade. This needs to be big. You've gotten one and almost gets the second, but it's only going to be Fix's healing pylon. With Yamitra though, attempting to come back in, combating with that captive sun, only guarantees one onto Iron, but it's going to be more than enough because that's been an anchor point for Afterlife.
Zura still just trying to stay alive. Zura needs to be able to stay alive to be able to proc this overtime here. Hanbei is back into this fight. Immortality Field comes down.
Great timing.
And we keep Zura alive. Iron needs to get back in here. Has the Gravitic Flux.
Hit by the Bionade, though, needs to be careful, as they do not want to be overwhelmed, but still finally gets topped up from the back line. But look at X10 free-firing from on high. The rocket comes in, just completely obliterating the remaining health. Lethal attempting to counteract against it, but X10's having a field day on the high ground. None contested, as it's 2 minutes and 25 seconds now on the clock, entering into the docking bay.
And Rift are going to be able to wipe some sweat off their brow because, I mean, they had to use everything to break open that fight. The Nano Blade really was what completely turned it, and X10 on that high ground, not letting Iron ever get into a position where the Gravitic Flux could have come through. And this is where I think that the Winston composition actually gets a lot more value in this area because you have so much control of that high ground, and Afterlife comes in. Iron, big Gravitic Flux, actually.
I believe they actually were able to avoid through it. I didn't see the fall damage onto it, but there is a pulse bomb to come in from Zira as they do hold defensively here. They capitalize and now put Rift into the position of where they can just watch these 4 doorways and deny them entry.
Yeah, now how is Rift going to be able to get through this? It's probably going to have to be like with the Lucio. They also have a Nano Boost as well coming in soon. Chime with the pulse bomb. Those are ways that they can break through. Obviously, this is a little bit of the... I think this has changed. Yeah, this has changed Gibraltar, so it's a lot easier than it used to be to get through these 4 chokeholds, Rich.
And you can see
it's not as
quickly diving down below. Yeah, mind-numbing is definitely a way to describe it because I hated ever pushing into this whenever I was in comp. As now you can see, still being held from the doorway. Zira checked at least by Chime. Going for the TVT, 1 for 1, the recalls. Both committed Chime into this. I know, right? Chime, ring the bell! Ring the bell! Zira now goes for the recall, back into it again. They go at it with an assistance from Yamitra. Zira, you're a legend! Working around that, able to finally get taken down. But all the while, it's basically no progress because Astronex is still chasing others.
And I mean, the Primal Rage is going to come in here. Meter's going to go down, and Rift, I mean, have so much momentum to move forward here. They need to find a way to secure these kills, though, as Astronex is going to go deep, try and zone off those supports, but maybe it's gone a little bit too aggressive, but the healing is there.
Capitalizing onto it, the pulse bomb is active, gets the stick onto it, guarantees that Astronex is not going to be long for this world. 20 seconds to go. Rift now, 2 ultimates available, soon to have a 3rd, but that's going to be Iron getting another pickup in. Afterlife will guarantee that they eliminate this. There's no way that Rift comes back from it now.
I mean, Lethal just being a turret right there, standing still with the overclock and just pumping out that damage as... Gonna see if anyone can make it to the cart. No one can, and Rifter stopped here on second. Afterlife now have a win condition to take a lead in this series on their offensive end. But I mean, if you're Rift, you're kind of like, you know what, we take those. Especially with how difficult it was to get through first. Like, we're probably like, okay, you know what, this is fine. This is okay. It could have been a lot worse.
Yeah, I would say it could be low.
You know, glass half full type vibes, you know what I mean?
Okay. It must be a big glass. That's so we do take a look at swapping his sides. Alrighty, here we go. We're gonna see what we have.
You mean like one of those German like a
mega pint kind of thing or whatever,
like the ones that are shaped like boots. Right,
yeah. Well, because technically then the bottom half is more full, because if you fill it halfway, since there's like the point of the shoe that
okay,
like,
semantic Sam. All right.
You know what? Hey, if you want to go down that route, I'm gonna talk liquid volume here. We're gonna go into that.
I was just talking about, you know, different types of big cups, and you gotta go all PhD on me, you know?
First of all, we're not gonna cycle back to the whole science knowledge thing here, because I don't have much of it, and we already know that the brains are in the parent side of it, because you chose to go a very different route. Very different route.
Everyone in my family has PhDs. I'm casting
Overwatch. We all love you, chat. We know. If anything, you are getting us in our prime, because we are here versus doing science. As there's 4 minutes now on the clock. Afterlife on the attack, instantly dropping below, and X10 making quick work of Fix out the gate. And this will most likely put Afterlife into a position where they just gotta hold off and wait for the regroup since they've got the spawn.
I think it was a really good idea coming out on this Ashe too. You know, if Afterlife are gonna play a little bit more of this clumped up style that they have been in this map in particular, Ashe does a really good job of holding these chokeholds really effectively, and Sigma, I mean, can only hold so many angles, right? And with Rift now moving away from playing that more of a, you know, 5-man style, you can have these high grounds work really effectively for them, and Afterlife need to find a way to get up there. That's one way to do it.
Wowzers!
Slide right up there with the Genji, and that's both, I mean, I would say both DPS. The Mitra on Iliari, kind of a DPS, right?
It's like the alley-oop, you know, I'm gonna go, you gonna go, we both gonna go, and then now there's just a sad, lonely chime all alone in a block of ice.
It's like that one meme of Dwayne Wade with the alley-oop to LeBron James.
Yeah.
That's what it's like. But I mean, the thing about this is that, like, if X10 doesn't really have any escapability like the coach gun, it is very hard to get away from this, right? You don't have a ton of peel available to you besides that, so if Zura and Lethal can find a way to put pressure onto this Ashe, it is going to make it a little bit more difficult for X10 to operate around.
Now as the wall comes out and blocks some of the incoming fire, instantly going to delete those with the amplification matrix moving in underneath. Accretion does land on Astronex, and there's Lethal with a rail shot to the dome, right between the Omnic eyes. And now Iron's just gonna look to clean up with the rest of the squad down below. Doesn't need to commit that flux nor the overclock, and that's gonna just keep them moving up this rampway and feeling really confident about this checkpoint.
And I wonder if, I mean, how Rift is going to be able to get back into this fight. It's going to be very difficult as well, because they're going to be fighting in this enclosed area, and Gravitic Flux is going to get a ton of value here, and you don't really have high ground to work with either, which they would love to have for X10 specifically.
Oh, that's decent shots!
No.
Oh, no!
Oh, no.
Well... It's that time again!
That's Charles the Ninth right there. That's very unfortunate. I used the Amp Matrix too to try and like get back into that one. That's Rift are going to be kicking themselves.
I, Charles the Ninth.
I would want to pause after that too.
Yeah, I would too. I really would.
I want to pause and be like, what happened there? Why did we? Zuri even typed C9 in chat.
I would expect nothing less of any of these players that would type it. It would definitely be him. And then they're even chatting further. How can you shoot? They're just not gonna have a conversation. They're just having a good time together. But yes,
Afterlife, I feel like are some great personalities to have be chalking in.
Oh, absolutely. Just to have them.
One of the things that I really love is that we've kind of, as Overwatch has evolved, we've opted in to bring in match chat live. I mean, it's not live on the screen for the viewers, unfortunately, right now. But like, still, we still have those moments. You know, that's really fun.
It's quite a grand time whenever there's moments like that. You know, we've had a lot of highlights, even when we talk about like Overwatch League. Like, there's some real great chat moments that are just always gonna live in infamy.
I think there's someone in chat's gonna be typing a specific set of 3 words that I'm not allowed to repeat, but.
Well, what we can repeat is how well this game is going between these two, and how competitive it's been thus far, as you do see Afterlife now with a 3-minute and 45-second time bank into this docking bay. Iron up top, denied for the moment, but does still have the flux available. A couple of decent shots, though, from Fix, causing a reposition. Ymitra's already down, which is devastating. There's a Blizzard locking down Meter, but there's no one to follow up onto it. They're completely fine within the Immortality field. And now you have a separation. Chime has to drop below. There's this attempt to contest very aggressively by Iron. A wall actually buys some space and some time, but the fact is that both supports are down once again, and this spells disaster for Rip. And they're having to swap quickly on for Hanbei to potentially swift step themselves into this. This is a bloodbath and a fiesta at the same time with the Amp Matrix on top. Afterlife's about to guarantee that they can just close this out. There's no way that Rip's gonna be able to get into it to even touch.
Iron is just playing flanking Sigma. I've never seen a more mobile Sigma in my life. Like, this is something Dora talked about. Iron's just everywhere. This is the most mobile Sigma I've ever seen. Just walking past the Orisa, not giving a darn, just going into the backline and saying, like, how are you gonna stop me? Well, with like, there's just no way. You're not gonna be able to do so.
Yo, if anything, Sigma put on the running shoes. He doesn't actually touch the ground, but he's in his running shoes.
It's just the thought that counts, you know, like having the mental, you know, aspect of it really makes you go.
You're in the mindset. You're in the mindset of a runner, even though you never touch the ground. I get into that like runner's high, like when you start running like long distances and you just get into that weird mental state of where you don't even feel your body. That's what's happening with Iron right now. He's just on his own feel, and that's why you have the gravitic flux, because he takes flight afterwards.
This is such an like interesting like way to play this composition though, where it's like there is a lot of kind of selfishness, I'd say, to a lot of the heroes on this composition, right? Where it's like Genji can kind of play for himself a little bit. Sigma can realistically play for himself effectively if it's not just running into an Orisa, right? If you're like running into the back lines, it's very effective to just like stand there, put your shield up, have accretion, and just, you know, 2-tap one of the supports or one of the squishies. It's very difficult to be a squishy working up against a Sigma, and if the Orisa isn't able to get back into the backline and help, like, it's as good as dead if you're against someone as capable as we know Iron is to be on some of those off-tank heroes.
And now we have been able to find ourselves on a match point situation. It's a very, very great turnaround coming onto this Watch Point Gibraltar. But as we've seen today, this back and forth between map selection has been very favorable to those that make the selection. So Rift
what does Zolik say? Zolik said, they win their maps, we win our maps. That's Overwatch. It's a simple game. Like, I mean, that to be fair,
make a pick, you win the game. We make the pick, we win the game.
To be fair, I mean, it has worked out that way for the most part with, I think, 3 out of the 4 series we've had so far go to map 5. This one's also potentially a map 5er as well, with Rift being able to get their choice at whatever they want in terms of a push map. Then we go to map 5. That's, you know, anything can happen on a map like that between these two teams. Afterlife would definitely want to avoid what happened in the previous series by winning a map 5 here, but Rift, I think, with their decision to go to a push map, I think it's going to be great for them because they can decide, like, hey, do we want to play more of that Lucio style? Is there a map that we can play on push that is going to be able to favor that a little bit more? Maybe something like Coliseo. I think push in general, though, like, no matter where we go, still favors Lucio because speed is just incredibly important on maps like this. I think when we see Flashpoint eventually, like in Overwatch League and stuff like that, Lucio also will be incredibly viable. So we'll see what exactly Rift has in terms of their mindset going into this one. Are we going to also see changes as well? I think Haven is someone who we have to kind of talk about in terms of Afterlife, or also bring back Rhino, depending on, and I expect that to change or maybe not change depending on what the map is that we see.
Yeah, we're seeing that there's still some hesitation on the decision here. taking every last second for this, just because you again are in a position of going home. This is the lower bracket. You have to make these decisions, as it is going to be Coliseum with the decision make. So now this would lead me to believe, as you mentioned, we should have that adjustment in players. I think Rhino and Haven would be extremely viable. We've seen Haven have such stellar performances when it does come to Coliseum, but Zura has done the same as well, so this could be a toss-up between the two of them, and I'm really curious to see how they make that decision for their selection
I think we
of players.
I think in the previous series, did we not see Iron on Coliseum? I think
I believe it was. I know we've sometimes
and they full capped that map.
That's true. They did.
So I think this is a potential play. I mean, if you think about it and you're like, hey, you know what? We had this previous map where we full capped. It's like, Iron could stay in. I think there's no. I mean, you have a lot of momentum from that in particular, and I think that's definitely something. Granted, I don't think they were playing against like the same style of composition or style of team that we are seeing on the other end. But yeah, I think Iron staying in to play the Sigma is definitely something you can still see here.
They're hot. They're hot right now, so you gotta just keep letting them set ablaze. I mean, Iron, with the performance that we just saw, Iron's like, I ain't going out. I'm staying in. I got my runners on. I'm never gonna let that. Can they please make a runner shoe Sigma? Like, just put him in a jogger and just like the irony of that.
Are there any? I was wondering if there are any. I'm trying to think of any skins that don't have his feet showing, and I don't know if.
Well, there's the one that like almost has his foot covered, but like his toes hang out. Right?
Oh my god!
I think. Watch, someone's gonna start atting us on Twitter, sending all the feet pics.
Always do this. We always do Sigma toes. Whenever we see Sigma, just somehow always magically goes back to toes.
To be fair, it's always because a lot of the time, whenever we're casting, we get Cowman on broadcast, and then Sigma gets played, and then we talk about Sigma, and then Sigma feet, and then I don't wear my shoes because I do it for Cowman, and his parents supporting him. It's a weird development. But that's the thing. And speaking of weird developments, we can take a look at how that roster's gonna change up, and Haven's actually gonna come in, but we're gonna keep Iron. So there is at least 50-50 in what I suggested about subs.
Yeah, Haven coming in, I mean, makes sense to me, especially with the Sojourn performance that Haven has had, not only in this series, but in the previous series as well. I think that Haven coming into this lineup really, especially if Sojourn's going to be as viable as I probably believe her to be on a map like Coliseum, where it feels like Sojourn, like, since inception, has just been very good. I mean, obviously, like, we had an entire year last year where it was Sojourn, like, all the time, but, like, even I think, like, even through, like, some of the nerfs and stuff like that, she's still kind of stuck around on a map like this in Coliseum, where you can kind of, in that mid-range, farm rather effectively and then get those one-shots in that corridor where, what we like to call it, the podcast corridor, where me and you talk about our favorite Pokemon, because usually it's just those two teams poking for 2 minutes.
So, yeah, it's been Pokemon, it's been desserts.
We did Digimon.
It's been Digimon, yep. Oh, there was another one too. I think we talked a long time ago. We talked about pizza, but we're not going to go down that route.
We talked about gelato at one point.
We did.
I was wondering what the difference was.
Gelato, yep. And I went through quite a lucrative detailing about that. If anything, what we'll have to do is
hopefully we don't get it. I like it as much as I love our 2-minute podcast. I like it when we also just like see the teams. Oh
yeah.
Like,
we'll have to set up. We'll have to set up like some kind of like preemptive discussion topic. We'll just ask Twitter and be like, hey, what should we talk about if we go to Coliseum? And then have that there at our disposal. So the second we see this, we're going to be like, all right, friends, you asked for it. Here's the DL.
I think the thing about it too is that like the thing is like with these two composition, it is like a little bit more of that pokey style. So it does lend to more of a slow start. The difference is going to be that Iron is going to be on that Sigma, and something Hurix mentioned actually in the previous series is that like you can break the Sigma shield and kind of bully the Sigma to an extent where it's like if Sigma doesn't have any cooldowns, you can just walk forward at him. You have to be able to play really effectively around it, and with meter going down, all ready to chime, that's already not a great start for Afterlife here, but with how quickly I think meter died and how early, this should be able to get Afterlife back into this one eventually.
Yeah, we'll see as Haven gets one in return on the other side. No podcast here today. Full cancellation as the kills are coming in swiftly within that 60 seconds. forward positioning thus far by Astronex with the Orisa, continuing to mitigate with the spear spin, transitioning very easily across the way, though has already used the cooldown, so the accretion does land, but this crossfire and this opposing angle that you do see Rift playing with Yamitra and Hanbei gives more than enough sustainability to buy enough time so those cooldowns can come back online, and Chime even gets another one here onto Fix.
Yeah, Chime with this Hanzo on this flanking angle has been doing a really great job. I mean, this is kind of why you bring the Hanzo in maps like this, where you can just have those that ability in the mid to long range to really get those one-pick potentials and not let the healers pump back in those heals into their team, as Chime eventually does end up going down, and Afterlife does have a slight lead right now, and Haven's starting to warm up a little bit.
Ooh, X10 looking to get a couple of decent shots, though. Astronex needs to flee rapidly right now, but is recovered heavily by denying the front line as these rail shots go flying. And you see green lighting up in the kill feed as Iron gets the melee onto Hanbei, and that is guaranteed no support's able to top them up.
And now for Rift, it's going to be difficult for them to get back into this one, because now you've got Afterlife holding all of this positioning, and actually Astronex has opted into the mirror against Iron. I mean, this is crazy that we're seeing Iron being able to force these players off of kind of the standard pick that would be Orisa with how well he's been playing.
Just misses the flux, gets the stun. Iron,
so
okay,
bad.
you absolutely
I'm
did.
so
You had a voodoo doll and started putting pins in him the moment you said it, like for realsies. As now you can see Lethal dropping down below, attempting to try and get some value on top of it. Yamitra from on high, from the sun itself, comes in, but Fix on the return position. I was highlighting the change-up, but you've got this Afterlife recovery coming through.
Yeah, Fix is able to get two, and I mean, I think with Fix having this pylon up, they're going to be able to do a little bit here, and
nice shield.
A fight that looked like it was a bit of a scary situation for Afterlife is actually, they don't lose a lot. I mean, yes, they lose some macro in terms of the ultimates that they use, but they still have the positioning. They got to pick on the X10 here. I mean, this is just a great position for Afterlife to be in. Oh my
goodness, Haven!
Respect Haven. Put some respect on his name.
That ball has a scope on it! It's got a scope on it!
Why are they continuing to challenge him?
Hey, friend. Oh, is he still there? Bink!
Oh
yep,
God.
he's there. Hey, is he still there? Bink! Oh, yep, he's still there!
Oh, if he had hit that shot on the Chime, I would have lost it.
66 and gonna be climbing here after this checkpoint. The butt scratch commences, and they will just be able to continue holding the line here. Rift is rattled right now.
I mean, it's very difficult for Rift to get back into this one. I mean, there's no ultimates for Afterlife, which is the good thing, so Rift are going to be able to get back into this one by using these ultimates effectively, as Haven getting taken down incredibly low. Should be able to be picked off eventually, but actually, they don't manage to find the kills. Rift getting actually relatively low in the health bars. Chime?
Haven on the adventure, the quest, the determining factor to get the pickup in the back line. And while we had the POV for the moment, everybody else on the front line is just continuing to press on, with Rift able to capitalize for the first time in a while. But Lethal says, it's okay, team. I'm still here. I'm on the high ground.
Is moving.
Yeah, the bot's still gaining distance.
Like, I mean, okay, great. Like, Rift are going to be able to hold on the defensive end here, and we're able to find some picks, but in the end, look at the amount of meterage Afterlife has gotten off of this. 114 off of, I think, I would call that like 2 or 3 fight wins. If I'm being, like 4 if I'm being generous. Like, that was just 2 or 3 fight wins that Afterlife just took that inch that was given and got a mod.
Oh my goodness, that's an aggressive play if I ever did see one. But is the damage there? You have to hit the 90 proc. Comes up shy. Nice reflect and deflect coming out from Chime though. So that buys him a few seconds to get this back, but they're gonna head right to the neutral again.
Yeah, I mean, just hold it here. I mean, Iron
actually, never mind.
I mean, Iron has been completely dominating the Sigma matchup. Meter does go down, so X10 might have an angle here to start working with his Iron. Gravitic Flux potentially here could
rounded
hit
the corner.
One.
Might be able to do so, continuing to play this wall very effectively, but then there is a rotation that comes in by Meter, guaranteeing that you can get that off angle since the shield was blocking a lot of the incoming fire, specifically from Astronex. So again, they take this fight, but these picks are continuing to still come through.
And you can see Chime has actually gone over to the Genji just to offer a little bit more potential to execute into that backline, find a way to get onto Haven, because in this neutral matchup so far, And with how the tank matchup is gone, and with the DPS matchup, Haven has just been left by their own devices in the backline, and you cannot let someone like Haven have all of this space to work with. You gotta put some pressure as the Reflux comes out.
Ooh, Astro next low, Immortality Field, beautifully timed, buying enough time to not only get them topped up, but place the shield. Chime deflects the arrow onto Fix. Now return to sender, but I'm sending it to your neighbor.
If I'm Fix there, I'm also tilted again because that Genji was deflecting for quite a while before that shot came through.
Now as Haven at least gets another. Chime's actually putting in quite a bit of work here. That swap has yielded massive value.
I mean, Chime is lifting right now, actually.
Yeah.
I'm going to use the curse word, but he's deadlifting at the current moment.
You've already cursed one tank already.
Yeah, now it's time to curse the DPS. But the effectiveness of Chime here, just being able to move fluidly around the map and also put that pressure down onto Lethal, onto Haven, really making it difficult for Afterlife to set up these long-range angles that they would like to, but it is still a very difficult perspective for Rift in this scenario because of the fact that they have such a deficit in terms of that meter.
A deficit in meterage, and with only 3 minutes to do it in. Now you do have the Flux active. Astronex isn't able to really get anything with it, unfortunately, as you do have all of Afterlife recede back. They're giving the ground. They have more than enough time to do so in the back line, but Iron is the one who holds up front. The Dragon Strike is committed, attempting to get picks in the back. The blade is unsheathed. It comes out into the Immortality Field as Yumitra at least gets the follow-up. There's just enough damage onto Lethal to take it down, and a great consumption by Astronex to at least stop Fix, but the damage is still coming through.
Astronex is able to still stick around right here, but if Astronex isn't able to kill Fix, I mean, Iron can just walk at Astronex here, and Astronex needs to get out of dodge. I mean, you could see going towards that Mega, trying to be able to survive, get back to his team. Oh, okay.
Oh, there it is.
That's
He gets the ricochet. He gets the ricochet, and he gets the elimination. And now Chime is already overcommitted to give assistance, and that just, again, spells even more disaster with 2 minutes to go.
Okay, Astronex is just like, no more of this Sigma Mirror. I'm going on to the Reinhardt, but there's a Verdict Flux, gets two. Yumitra should be dead here, but a nice Immortality Field, actually, from Hanbei keeps him alive.
Beautiful play. You can see now a beautiful accretion as well onto the Reinhardt, stunning him and forcing him back. Iron, again, on their own, almost feeling as if it's like an Orisa play for the hot moment as the assistance comes in for the distance. Lethal playing the crossfire, going in on the high ground. Hanbei getting peppered in with damage, and you can just see the overclock waiting to be unleashed, and now it commences. Chasing down, the second you climb that wall, you will be sent home packing. As an well, you know, at least there's a fire strike for something.
I mean, Astronex is just going to try and dance as much as he can away from this. I mean, the shield is still alive, so Astronex is still living throughout most of this. Actually, Haven goes down. Astronex will be able to survive, it looks like. Oh, okay. Iron gets a little bit too over-aggressive there to try and hold that one back, but it actually looks like Rift have wrangled the control back of this bot, and I mean, Rich, with where we are, a minute left, it has to be a Herculean effort here from Rift to be able to win this one. And it's not like they don't have the tools to do it, right? They have Ant Matrix, that's going to be a big one. They also have Shatter relatively close, and with a neutral pick like that on the Lethal, that's great.
And potentially this late staggered onto Fix. They're going to commit the Sun to this? Captive Sun. Oh, X10, you need to live. There is so much effort coming up by Fix. They didn't manage to proc the Sunstruck, so they clean this up, and they're coming back into it.
I mean, the bot has been moving too much throughout all of this. Maybe if Afterlife, or maybe if Rift can secure these kills quickly, they can really get some momentum and get that out towards that butt scratch. But Iron is just being pumped full of heals right now, and the kills just aren't able to come through for Rift.
Yeah, if Iron goes down there, that means so much of a different turn of events. But with them getting out, they can play up towards the stair. Dragon Strike is active. Earth Shatter comes in for the knockdown, I believe only onto one, but it only gets the healing pylon. Astronex drawing back, playing by the Gelato card. Now with X10 being covered by the protection, it's not going to be an easy pickup for Haven. Iron with the Flux attempting to knock them back, but the blade gets one on top of it. But there is a rail shot that comes in from downtown by Lethal to deny this. Ripped with their hope and dream to turn this about in the last final seconds are unfortunately not able to. We say a fond farewell as Afterlife moves on once again to continue their redemption round.
And as much as things change from Overwatch 1 to Overwatch 2, if you have a full set of ultimates, the curse still lives on. It feels the 5 ult curse, I guess now instead of the 6 ult curse, still lives and it's Afterlife who are able to continue through this losers bracket. Great performance from Haven on this Hanzo. I mean, a lot of the momentum and a lot of the reason they had such an incredible start to this map was Haven just hitting shot after shot after shot on this Hanzo.
And then even when Haven, let's say, either gets picked up on a random occasion or doesn't quite find the angle later on in this, Lethal's there to pick it up. But again, yeah, Haven, in these highlight moments, you're gonna see, hey, are you still there? Yep, I'm still here, buddy.
Yeah, I mean, this felt like it was really just when the map got completely taken over. When was I mean, that Dragon Strike is like, that's like a I'm feeling myself Dragon Strike, where it's like, I've just got 3 headshots in a row, I'm just yeeting this one out. It's like Steph Curry, it's like a heat check. It's just like, I'm shooting this from 35.
It's like, bruh, I don't need this. You can take it. Just take them. I don't need it. You can just go ahead. And then here's a couple of like those moments. Like I said, Lethal, again, in finding those off angles, giving that extra assistance, but major credit to Rift, though, understanding some of the changes that needed to happen, because Chime really did put on a performance. Like, you cannot discredit this individual for able to give them a lifeline to even keep going and deny this full capture, which we saw from Afterlife in the previous series.
Yeah, I think a lot of the members of Rift had their moments throughout this series. You know, Remetra, when the Lucio was like really cooking, I think had some really good plays. Hanbei as well. I think that Chime going onto the Genji, which is like a signature pick of theirs, really put the pressure onto Afterlife. It was just unfortunate that they were so behind in terms of that macro and meterage that it was almost impossible. Like, Chime would have had to have the deadlift of deadlifts to be able to bring that one back. So Afterlife going to be taking the victory here with that 3-1, continuing through that losers bracket. We do say a fond farewell, like you mentioned, to a Rift side who I think, like, again, getting into the playoffs for that team is still like a great success for them. I think that the way that they were able to claw themselves at the end, they were sitting at like 11th or 12th, like throughout after like the first, I think, 2 weeks or something like that. They won 4 off the back end to get themselves and sneak themselves into that 8th spot, and then unfortunately managed to not get too far in the playoffs, but still getting into the playoffs I think was a great feat for them. So, you know, something to hang your hat on for this Rift team.
Commendable indeed. And now that we do have the conclusion of this game, we do have one more. Before we do that, we're going to head to a short break so we can get a few words from Iron, the man, the myth, the forged legend, we could say. So don't go anywhere, because we're going to hear a few words from them.
Oh, hello, Fancy meeting you here. It's so nice to see ya. Are you ready to survive the wastelands? Then you'll need to bring your shotgun, your axe, and of course, your knife for your sharp wit, if you get my drift. Hey, whoa. Hold on there. Don't forget to pick up your Overwatch Contenders Junker Queen skin. Yeah, gearing up is as easy as connecting your Battle.net account to Twitch. And after that, watching the Overwatch Contender Summer Series will contribute to your drop progression, letting you claim your own wasteland-ready Overwatch Contenders Junker Queen skin. Oh, that's right. It's time to rampage. Now, get out there and slay with the Overwatch Contenders Junker Queen skin. Okay, take care now. See you in chat.
Hey, we're back, friends. We're here. We've got an interview, and we've got the chance to be able to speak with Iron. My friend, how are you doing after such a spectacular performance and an opportunity to continue working your way back to compete against the others?
I'm chilling. It was a fun match, you know. Just doing Sigma things, walking around.
In the most literal term.
I mean that it felt like you were just like walking into backlines and nothing could really stop you. But kind of talk me through a little bit before we go into this series, what it was like coming from the previous series, right? Where it's like a very long 5-map series. You unfortunately don't get the better end of that one, and you have to kind of immediately go and play into this next series in the losers bracket. We're kind of like the comms, or I guess vibes, like between the team, because I know like going through a series like that must have been a little bit difficult to come out on the wrong side, but then you got to go and play another one here. How was it between the team dynamic, you know, trying to reset yourselves going into a map like this?
I mean, vibes like the perfect word. Like, we just have a joke in the team. We always say play for vibes. Like, we just screw around, honestly. Like, we messed up our first match, so like we weren't really too tilted. We were like, we knew we should have played better, and you know, it's not really a big deal. We just go to the next one. Like, we were all like last map and like on Gibraltar, we were actually just like all goofing around, having a good time. Like, really don't get tilted that much, honestly.
I mean, it's one of those things where, you know, we talk about it. You can't allow, you know, previous games or previous matches and that kind of thing to affect the mental state. And we can for sure see not only just in the way that you're kind of talking about it now, but also the way that you play. So, you know, going forward into this and looking at, you know, your other opponents, is it something where that's like ever a moment of where is there a certain team that maybe allows you to think a little differently? Or is it really just no matter who it is, no matter what you're playing, you just always have to try and keep this almost carefreeness to you in the squad and just kind of vibing?
I feel like if you like ever get stressed over your enemies, like you've already lost, you know? You have to like always think that I'm going to win, you know, I'm better than my opponent. It's not even like a ego toxic thing. It's just like, you know, if you don't have confidence in yourself, like how can you succeed?
It's like a competitive thing where it's like more so.
Yeah, like I'm telling you, if you think that you aren't going to win, then you won't.
All right, okay, so now talking about this series in particular, I want to talk about this Sigma pick because you're getting people to mirror you on it, and that's not something that I think a lot of people expected going into this. A lot of it was kind of like, you know, Orisa's going to be very big, you know, Diva also something. Talk to me a little bit about through why this Sigma, like why in particular do you value Sigma so much here? Is it because you can play like very aggressively against an Orisa and just kind of walk past her and she can't really do anything to you because you have shield and you have grasp and things like that, and the backline can't hurt you? Like, what is the methodology behind this pick for you?
I think it depends on the map, but like on these like payload and hybrid maps, like if you're not fighting for the same space, like on COD, you know, everyone's trying to get to the point, but like on maps like, you know, Numbani or something, you can just set high ground. You don't really have to go to point right away. It doesn't really matter if they get like a tick or two, you can just get it back. So I think we can just like outspam with the Sig for like quite a bit, you know, especially with the Lari and Soldier and Sojourn and Hanzo, like so many different options we can just outspam, try to like get out their cooldowns. Like I can like stuff a choke, but I don't have to, you know, go onto a point. You know what I mean?
Okay. So with Iliari specifically, is there anything methodology-wise that changes just with, you know, her being a newer hero that you kind of work into the group? Is there something different that you do specifically with the Sigma and just the team in general that helps it or makes it more effective?
Not really. Alari, like, she can heal a lot, but, you know, Bap heals more. So usually, like, you're going to send your Alari off on an off angle, like, not with your Sigma, and you're going to, like, be with your Bap pretty much because he can heal you and lamp you. And, like, your Alari and the DPS can do whatever. So it doesn't really affect me. It's more, like, for your DPS. It's like sending, like, 2 DPS to go flank pretty much. You just have an Alari with, like, your Soldier or something.
Okay. I figure I like to ask those just because I guarantee you there's some Sigma players in here and it's like, yeah, like if I see them in my game, like I want to know if I should do anything like different, but you know, it is what it is. But we appreciate your time, my friend. It was awesome to get to speak with you. Major props to the performance that we just saw from your Sigma and just the team as a whole, continuing to fight back and again, you know, keeping those good vibes the rest of the time. So thank you so much.
No problem. See you guys.
Thank you, Iron.
Alrighty, so Kenobi, we have now finished our second one for NA, and we get to take a look at what our third one's going to be coming up, but also taking a look at what the scoring has looked like today. We're partially mirroring EMEA, only the 1-3 was the last one, and
yeah,
like there were 3-2s, so maybe
we need good boys versus Amplify to be a map 5, and then we'll like pretty much be mirrored completely with what happened in EMEA.
Yep, absolutely. So with that being said, we have a rundown of the day, and we get to round it out with Good Boys and Amplify. Don't go anywhere. There is still time for you to see more competitive Overwatch, more contenders, and even get those skins. So we'll be right back, friends.
Do you like solving problems? Problems like how to stop that tracer from deleting your backline? I know just what you're thinking. You'll bring a turret. But y'all can't solve all your problems by simply bringing an extra friend to the battlefield. For that, you need the Contenders Torbjorn skin. Solve your problems by connecting your Battle.net account to Twitch. After that, watching Overwatch Contenders Summer Series will contribute to your drops progress, letting you claim your Overwatch Contenders Torbjorn skin. Even your turret gets an upgrade. Warning, the Overwatch Contenders Torbjorn skin does not come with extra or upgraded turrets. Build instructions will not be provided. By picking Torbjorn, you waive a claim towards any destroyed turrets. No refunds, no exchanges, and no take-backsies.